What if the most profound scientific discovery of our age isn't a distant galaxy or a subatomic particle, but an intelligence far beyond our wildest dreams, right here in our cosmic backyard? What if a celestial visitor, long thought to be an inert wanderer, has decided to rewrite its own destiny, choosing to stay in our solar system and, more unsettlingly, near us? This isn't science fiction, my friends. This is the unfolding, terrifying reality of 3 Atlas, an object that has plunged the global scientific community, and indeed every major space agency, into a state of stunned disbelief and quiet panic. We are witnessing an unprecedented act of cosmic will, a technological display that shatters every preconceived notion of what is possible in the universe. For months, we tracked 3 Atlas, an interstellar anomaly hurtling through the cosmic void, destined for a fleeting passage through our solar system. Its trajectory was unequivocally hyperbolic. For those of us who speak the language of the cosmos, a hyperbolic path is the signature of a true cosmic wanderer, an object possessing more than enough kinetic energy, more than enough speed, to permanently escape the gravitational embrace of our sun. It was, in essence, a cosmic bullet, programmed by the universe's immutable laws to slingshot once around our star and then vanish back into the endless frigid dark between the stars. Its velocity, a staggering 2.8 kilometers per second above our sun's escape velocity, meant it was immune to our star's gravitational lasso. It was merely a temporary obstacle on a journey spanning eons and parsecs. This was the script, meticulously written in the very fabric of space-time, a narrative as old as the universe itself. But then the script was unceremoniously torn up. Something impossible happened. 3 Atlas began to slow down. Not a subtle adjustment, not a barely perceptible drift, but a deliberate, sustained, and monumental braking event. For weeks, our most sensitive instruments, from ground-based arrays in Chile and Hawaii to the unparalleled vision of the Hubble Space Telescope, all reported the same impossible fact. 3 Atlas was actively shedding speed at a rate no natural comet or asteroid could ever achieve on its own. It was countering its own momentum, actively resisting the sun's titanic gravitational pull. This isn't merely reacting to physics, it's defying it, bending the very rules that govern the celestial dance. Warm, intimate documentary narrator. Close mic tone, gentle breathiness, normal sibilance. Calm confidence, empathetic and trustworthy. Steady pace, low-medium, clear enunciation, soft sentence endings, natural micropauses between clauses. Neutral accent, modern cinematic narration with subtle uplift on conclusions. Frequency feel, warm low mids, slightly rolled off highs. The reading speed should be 0.8 times the normal speed. A dead piece of rock and ice does not decide to slow down. An asteroid does not carefully trim away kilometers of speed day after day, week after week. What we are witnessing is controlled, sustained, and powered deceleration. To truly grasp the sheer, mind-bending audacity of this maneuver, let's talk about delta V. In rocketry, delta V, change in velocity, is the lifeblood of every mission. It dictates how much fuel you need, how far you can go, and what you can achieve. To shed 2.8 kilometers per second of excess velocity in deep space is not just difficult, it's, for us, almost impossibly energy-intensive. Consider our most ambitious endeavors. Sending the Apollo astronauts to the moon required a colossal expenditure of chemical energy, meticulously calculated and executed. Yet, the energy 3 Atlas has expended to decelerate is greater than the combined propulsive output of every Apollo mission ever launched. Our most advanced billion-dollar spacecraft, like the venerable Voyager probes or the intrepid New Horizons, are slaves to the paths they are on, possessing meager delta-V budgets that dwarf the craft themselves if you consider the fuel required. They cannot simply stop or radically alter their course without massive dedicated fuel reserves. 3 Atlas is doing precisely this, smoothly, precisely, and continuously, day after day, without any visible signs of propulsion. This isn't just advanced, it's practically magical. And this, my friends, is where our collective scientific composure begins to unravel. Our brightest minds, our theoretical physicists, are confronting a truth that forces a re-evaluation of every textbook. Where is the exhaust plume? Our most sensitive telescopes, including the James Webb Space Telescope, have been aimed squarely at 3 Atlas, searching for any trace of vapor, gas, or ions being expelled. Nothing. Total, terrifying silence. If it were using a fusion engine, or even an advanced fission reactor, it would be a blinding beacon in the infrared spectrum, glowing with immense heat. Instead, it remains impossibly cold, emitting no thermal signature that our instruments can detect. There is no visible mass ejection. It is not flinging off pieces of itself to slow down. It is altering its own fate in complete, utterly incomprehensible silence. This suggests a propulsion system utterly alien to our understanding, a technology that might harness principles currently residing only in the deepest realms of theoretical physics. We're talking about possibilities like field propulsion, where space-time itself is manipulated. Close mic tone, gentle breathiness, normal sibilance. Calm confidence, empathetic and trustworthy. Steady pace, low-medium, clear enunciation, soft sentence endings, natural micro-pauses between clauses. Neutral accent, modern cinematic narration with subtle uplift on conclusions. Frequency feel, warm low-mids, slightly rolled-off highs. The reading speed should be 0.8 times the normal speed. Where space-time itself is manipulated, perhaps through exotic matter or even localized warp bubbles. Or perhaps it taps into the zero-point energy of the vacuum, drawing limitless power from the quantum foam of reality. This is not merely a Type 1 civilization technology, which primarily harnesses the energy of its home planet. This is the hallmark of a burgeoning Type 2 civilization, one that can command the energy output of its entire star system, or even a Type 3 civilization, capable of harnessing the power of entire galaxies. A Type 2 civilization might utilize a Dyson sphere-like array to power such a maneuver, or antimatter propulsion on a scale we can only dream of. But the complete lack of detectable waste products points towards something even more profound, perhaps a mastery of gravity itself, allowing it to generate its own localized gravitational fields for thrust. Such a feat would imply a deep, fundamental understanding of quantum gravity, a holy grail for our own physicists. As the deceleration continued, a new, even more unsettling picture began to emerge. The braking was not random, it was targeted. The simulations run on supercomputers by the most skilled orbital modelers we possess, the very same teams who guide our own spacecraft with needlepoint precision across millions of miles, converged on one terrifying answer. 3 Atlas was not merely becoming bound to the Sun, it was shaping its own orbit, meticulously, precisely. And the orbit it was targeting was not some distant, harmless loop out by Jupiter or Saturn. It was aiming for an orbit that repeatedly crosses the same region of space that Earth itself occupies, a resonant orbit, placing 3 Atlas in our neighborhood again and again in a predictable rhythm. This is not speculation. This is the cold, hard conclusion of orbital mechanics. It raises a question no one wants to say aloud. Is 3 Atlas deliberately positioning itself near our planet? Because if that is true, then this object is not just staying in our solar system, it is choosing to stay near us. Perhaps it intends to settle into one of our Earth-Sun Lagrange points, those gravitational sweet spots where objects can remain relatively stable with minimal effort. This would be a perfect vantage point for long-term observation. The timing of this impossible maneuver is perhaps the most concerning element of all. 3 Atlas began its dramatic, energy-intensive braking immediately after its closest approach to Earth. Think about that. It flew through our inner system on its high-speed escape path. It gathered data, observed our planet, swept past our crowded shell of satellites, and listened to the chaotic storm of our radio, television, and military signals. It recorded the chemical composition of our atmosphere, the undeniable signs of industrial life, the artificial geometric lights of our cities on the night side of the planet. Then, once it had seen enough, once it had passed the point of maximum proximity, it began to slow down. It's as if what it learned during that brief flyby changed its purpose. As if the decision to abort its 2 million-year journey back to the void was made because of what it saw here. What did it detect? Did it register the undeniable signs of a rapidly evolving technological species, perhaps classifying us as a fledgling Type 0 civilization on the Kardashev scale, one that uses fossil fuels and has not yet harnessed the full power of its home planet? Did it perceive our global conflicts, our profound environmental instability, our fragile warring nature? Perhaps it saw our species as a virus in a petri dish, growing exponentially, consuming its host, and on the verge of either self-destruction or a dangerous breakout. This observation might have triggered a new protocol, a decision to maintain vigilance. From their perspective, a civilization millions of years old, we could be an interesting, if volatile, experiment, or a potential threat to the cosmic neighborhood that needs monitoring. They are staying to watch the experiment reach its conclusion. The implications are enormous, pushing humanity into a new era of cosmic self-awareness. The moment scientists realized the breaking was intentional, the global conversation shifted from quiet academic halls into the windowless, secure rooms of strategy, defense, and national security. Because once you accept that 3i Atlas is maneuvering with purpose, you are forced to accept the next, far more terrifying reality. We are utterly, completely, and totally helpless. We cannot influence its purpose. We cannot redirect it. We cannot stop it. Whatever it plans, whatever its endgame, we are simply observers, ants on a railroad track, suddenly aware of the onrushing train. Our fastest missiles, our most powerful nuclear weapons. Warm, intimate documentary narrator. Close mic tone, gentle breathiness, normal sibilance. Calm confidence, empathetic and trustworthy. Steady pace, low medium, clear enunciation, soft sentence endings, natural micro-pauses between clauses. Neutral accent, modern cinematic narration with subtle uplift on conclusions. Frequency feel, warm low mids, slightly rolled off highs. The reading speed should be 0.8 times the normal speed. Are less than children's toys against something that can alter its own velocity by kilometers per second with no visible effort. The entire balance of power has become meaningless. This fear isn't born from aggression. 3i Atlas has not fired a weapon or made a threatening move. The fear comes from a far more fundamental realization. It has demonstrated a capability so far beyond ours that it renders our defenses irrelevant. If it completes its transition into a bound, stable orbit, it becomes a permanent fixture, a new artificial planet in our solar system, a presence we did not invite, cannot remove, and cannot match in precision and power. Imagine an object powered by a technology we cannot even begin to comprehend, passing near Earth again and again on a schedule set by something other than nature. It will be a new moon in our sky, a constant, silent reminder that we are no longer the apex intelligence in our own home. This reality has every major government on Earth on edge. Diplomatic channels are burning around the clock, fueled by frantic, secret energy. Spacefaring nations, the United States, China, Russia, the European Space Agency, are exchanging data, sometimes reluctantly, sometimes strategically, all trying to figure out the object's intentions as much as each other's. Ambition and fear swirl together. Some optimists argue for immediate, powerful communication attempts, broadcasting prime number sequences to signal our intelligence and peaceful intentions. Others, the realists, the strategists, scream for total global radio silence, warning that any desperate outreach could be interpreted as panic, weakness, or even aggression. We are a non-contacted tribe, waving spears at a stealth bomber. Any move we make is a dangerous one. And beneath all this geopolitics lies the profound scientific unease. The physicists who study propulsion, the engineers who build our rockets, they are the ones confronting the most uncomfortable truth. 3I Atlas is using a form of thrust that does not resemble anything in our catalog of physics. It's not a chemical rocket, we would see the plume. It's not an ion drive, we would see the trail. It's not a solar sail, it's slowing down. It's rewriting our understanding of what is possible simply by existing. It's a walking, flying violation of our known laws. But perhaps the most unsettling part of this entire encounter is the profound, deafening, calculated silence. It has not attempted to communicate after its flyby. Close mic tone, gentle breathiness, normal sibilance. Calm confidence, empathetic and trustworthy. Steady pace, low medium, clear enunciation, soft sentence endings, natural micropauses between clauses. Neutral accent, modern cinematic narration with subtle uplift on conclusions. Frequency feel, warm low mids, slightly rolled off highs. The reading speed should be 0.8 times the normal speed. It has not attempted to communicate after its flyby. No friendly hello, no broadcast, no response to the powerful radar signals we have begun bouncing off its hull. It simply moves, it observes, it chooses. And right now, it is choosing to stay. Just as the global defense community braced for 3A Atlas to settle into its terrifying new orbit, another shockwave rippled through the scientific community. Astronomers, expecting continued momentum shedding or even fragmentation, observed the exact opposite. Its velocity drop-stopped, completely, instantly, as if whatever impossibly powerful force had been slowing it suddenly released its grip. Natural processes do not behave like that. They do not have an on-off switch. Ice does not just decide to stop sublimating. Tidal stresses from a planet do not just pause. Yet, 3A Atlas acted precisely as if it flipped a switch. One moment it was losing speed at an impossible rate, fighting the sun's gravity. The next it was coasting again, perfectly silent, as though whatever was influencing it had finished its job. The maneuver was complete. It had achieved the precise velocity it desired. This was not the subtle, almost debatable boost observed with Oumuamua years ago. This was a sustained, 2-week-long, high-energy burn followed by a perfect, instantaneous shutdown. Something was guiding 3A Atlas through distinct phases, mimicking intelligent timing, purpose, and absolute control. And then, just when researchers thought the mystery had peaked, something even stranger appeared. As 3A Atlas transitioned out of its sudden deceleration phase and settled into its new captured orbit, telescopes picked up a faint but unmistakable pattern in its reflected light. This was not the smooth gleam of an icy body, nor the chaotic scatter of fractured debris. This was a repeating pulse, a steady, evenly spaced, almost rhythmic flash of reflected sunlight. Objects do not flash like that by accident. For a reflected glint to stay consistent and rhythmic while the object moves through space means one thing. The structure of 3A Atlas contains flat, highly reflective planar surfaces. Surfaces arranged with purpose. Nature crafts beauty and chaos, but it does not design and align perfect flat planes that catch sunlight in a repeating, metronomic sequence. That is geometry. That is precision. That is engineering. Warm, intimate documentary narrator. Close mic tone, gentle breathiness, normal sibilance. Calm confidence, empathetic and trustworthy. Steady pace, low medium, Clear enunciation, soft sentence endings, natural micro-pauses between clauses. Neutral accent, modern cinematic narration with subtle uplift on conclusions. Frequency feel, warm low mids, slightly rolled off highs. The reading speed should be 0.8 times the normal speed. If that pulse was not random, and more scientists agree it was not, then someone or something engineered those surfaces long before we even noticed the object was coming our way. Observatories around the world scrambled to compare this pattern against every known natural explanation using advanced spectroscopy. Glinting asteroids? No match. Fragmented comets? Not even close. Simple solar glints from uneven rocky surfaces? The timing was far too precise, too stable. But then came the moment that froze entire teams in silence. The pulse was not constant. It was evolving. Slowly, deliberately, the pattern was changing. Each cycle, each flash, grew slightly longer in duration. It was as if the object were actively adjusting its rotation, fine-tuning its spin by fractions of a second so small they had to be measured with high-precision atomic clocks. Space rocks do not adjust anything. Dead, inert objects do not fine-tune their spin. Yet, 3A Atlas behaved exactly like it was stabilizing itself after a major maneuver, like a ship damping its own momentum after a long engine burn. It was as if it had completed the primary stage of its journey, the braking, and was now settling into a new controlled drift, perhaps a stable observation mode. The reflective signature was not just changing, it was responding to its own new orbital state, as if it were aware, as if it were preparing for the next phase. So why would 3A Atlas, a craft capable of crossing the interstellar void, choose to stay near Earth? The possibilities debated in secure bunkers and classified video calls range from the wildly hopeful to the deeply existentially unsettling, none of which can be ruled out. The most benign interpretation, the one everyone hopes is true, is that 3A Atlas is simply conducting an extended study. If a Type 2 or Type 3 civilization capable of building such a vessel discovers a world like ours, a rare blue marble radiating complex radio signals, covered in artificial geometric lights on its night side, and surrounded by an expanding chaotic shell of satellites, would they not want to observe more closely? From a strictly scientific perspective, Earth is arguably the most fascinating object in this solar system, perhaps for thousands of light years. We are a young, noisy, energetic, and rapidly evolving technological species, a biological curiosity, a sociological anomaly. A long-term, stable orbit would allow continuous study, a real-time observation of our development, our conflicts, our progress, our communications. It would be the greatest scientific prize in the galaxy, a cosmic National Geographic documentary unfolding before their eyes. However, there are other, more complex interpretations. Perhaps 3A Atlas is part of a broader network, its function entirely different. It could be a scout, a single vanguard sent ahead of something much larger, something still coasting in the dark. By remaining near Earth, it could serve as a relay, a monitoring outpost, or an anchor point for future activity. It might be using our Sun's immense gravitational and energetic resources to send a high-bandwidth signal back to its origin, a signal that simply states, "Target acquired." This is precisely what humans would do if we found a developing, pre-warp civilization light years away. We wouldn't just fly by, we would stay, park a probe in a stable orbit, watch, listen, and prepare for future communication, or indeed future exploitation. Then comes the more cautious, more strategic line of thought. Perhaps its presence is not just curiosity, but assessment. Maybe what it observed during its closest approach, our nuclear weapon systems, our global conflicts, our profound environmental instability, our rapid, uncontrolled technological expansion, triggered a new protocol, a decision to maintain vigilance. From the perspective of a Type 2 or 3 civilization, one that has mastered planetary-scale engineering and perhaps even stellar-scale energy harvesting, we might look like a dangerously unstable entity. We could be a developing species that needs monitoring, not because we are a threat to them, at least not yet, but because we might become a threat to ourselves or to the cosmic neighborhood. They might be staying to watch the experiment reach its conclusion, to gauge our maturity before any potential interaction. And of course, the darkest scenario lingers at the edge of every discussion, the one that military leaders are forced to consider. What if staying is the first step toward direct involvement? Not an invasion in the crude way humans imagine. If a civilization this advanced wanted to harm us, the planet would already be gone. But rather, a preparation for intervention, for influence, for a presence that we cannot control or oppose. Even a benevolent intervention by a civilization millions of years ahead of us, a truly Type 3 civilization that can orchestrate galactic-scale events. Warm, intimate documentary narrator. Close-mic'd tone, gentle breathiness, normal sibilance. Calm confidence, empathetic and trustworthy. Steady pace, low-medium, clear enunciation, soft sentence endings. Natural micropauses between clauses. Neutral accent, modern cinematic narration with subtle uplift on conclusions. Frequency feel, warm low mids, slightly rolled off highs. The reading speed should be 0.8 times the normal speed. Would reshape human history in ways we cannot predict. It would shatter our religions, our economies, our cultures, our very sense of self. The arrival of a god, even a kind one, is a terrifying prospect. Our trajectory toward becoming a Type 1 civilization, mastering our own planet's energy and resources, would be fundamentally altered, perhaps guided, perhaps suppressed. The next weeks will define a new chapter in human history. If Three-Eyed Atlas stays, and it is clear now that it is staying, we will live in a solar system we do not fully control. We will share our home, adapt, observe, hope, and prepare for whatever comes next, knowing that an intelligence far beyond our own, silent and powerful, has entered our neighborhood. For the first time in our existence, it is making choices, choices that affect us all. This is no longer just a story of a visitor. This is the story of a new neighbor. And the implications, both terrifying and awe-inspiring, will redefine humanity's place in the vast, silent cosmos forever. Our long-term trajectory as a technological species has irreversibly shifted from one of isolated self-discovery to one of potential coexistence, observation, or even tutelage under the watchful gaze of a cosmic titan.